Wow.
Wow. I don't know about this one. did
We got mobile Sam.
We got this.
Looks to me like someone is shuttling kids to school. Is that what's happening, Sam?
That's what's happening, buddy. It's raining in Sacramento. I'm trying to be a good father here.
And you
so
know,
walking is a challenge.
What better time to do a live radio hit on video than while driving with a child through the rainy streets? Yes. Welcome in, Sam. How are you?
Welcome, boys. I'm doing wonderful. Just trying to mix it up and throw you a curveball here.
All right. Well, yeah, we're good. We'll just play jiu-jitsu rules. Everything's fine. Just don't make eye contact. Okay.
Indeed. Gotcha.
Sam, since you have your, I believe that is the lovely and talented writer next to you.
That is Landon. But
I'm sorry. I can only see the top of the head. I apologize. That is Landon. Okay. I can only see the red hair.
Red.
All right.
With the bloody nose tissue in the nose. That's a good look, bud. Good job.
That's a great look. We'll start with Landon, and then Sam, you can chime in as well. But we are more interested, since Landon's more in the demo we're going for. We just completed our snake draft of Halloween candy, so we'll start with Landon. Landon, if you are trick or treating tonight, and even if you're not, what is the candy you would receive that you would want most of all, that you hope is going to show up in that bag?
So I have the AirPods on, buddy. You can't hear you.
Sorry.
Number one pick.
Number
one pick on Halloween candy. If you could have your way. Ooh, Crunch. We have a Crunch vote.
Nestle Crunch.
Nestle Crunch did not make the list. Okay.
Right. How about you, Sam?
Mine is very easy because my wife did that thing where you buy the candy way too early and it sits around the house. So my diet lately has had way too much Butterfinger.
Butterfinger was my second pick. Circle gets the square. The number one pick, incidentally, Sam, was Reese's Peanut Butter Cups from Chris, followed by Peanut M&Ms and Reese's Pieces from Jason and myself, respectively. Your thoughts?
Those are good. Those are really, really good. I'm a peanut butter guy. So Baby Ruth would be another addition for me.
Did not make the list.
And then Snickers you can't go wrong with. But I'm definitely more on the chocolate bar side versus the, give me some. I mean, like Skittles are good, but, I'd rather have chocolate than candy.
Interesting. The Amick list, if they combined their fantasy teams, 3 of their 4 picks were not.
Yeah, they could have their own list.
Baby Ruth, Crunch, and what was the third one he said that was? Snickers.
Yeah.
None were picked by we're not in our top 12. So we're off to the races, Sam. Congratulations. That's the interview. Take care.
Love it. Always good to be with you guys.
Get to school safely and back home. Sam, it was weird. Dave and I were just talking about, the Kings being off for 2 days and it feels like an eternity. Then we reminded ourselves the season started for them 1 week ago. It's weird how much can happen for every team in a week. I guess your early 1 week observation, maybe Kings, maybe league wide, anything jumping out to you right off the top here in this opening week?
Yeah, I mean, we can start with the Kings. First of all, it never ceases to amaze me every year, and this is league-wide, is just the emotional roller coaster of the early stretch, and no team and no fan base is immune to it. You know what I mean? Like, if you are the Lakers and you start 3-1, you feel like you're about to win the title. And, if you're the Kings and you start 0-2, bye, buddy, love you, have a good day.
Was that to me?
Was that to us?
I love you guys too. If you're the Kings and you go 0-2, even though you played reasonably well in those games, less so in the Laker game, then the fans are wondering, is this a bad team? And then they take care of business against 2 lower level teams in Portland and Utah, and the fan base feels better. So I don't know what to think of them, obviously, just yet from a legitimacy standpoint because of that contrast between opponents. But considering the backdrop of last season and as we all know, like the way that they, cost themselves a trip to the playoffs by not being able to beat bad teams it's, they deserve kudos for taking care of business in back-to-back fashion against Portland and Utah. So, we'll see. They're in an okay place, and everybody other than OKC, I feel like, is in the same place in the West. But my goodness, the Thunder are coming out of the gate here.
Sam Amick with us. And Sam, yesterday on the show, we replayed a clip where De'Aaron Fox was talking to Gary Gerald, and he mentioned that he's got two fingers taped together, and that's just something, unless we get a month off, it's going to bug me all year. And then Styles and Watkins talked about it, put out a clip, and it kind of caught fire. Are we dealing with the same thing that Sabonis dealt with last year? Early injury to the hand. It's funny because I actually got a couple of calls from, we'll just say that again, people that know things with the club that stressed very, very hard that it's a little blown out of proportion, that he jammed a finger. It's not a tear. It's not a break. It's not a fracture. That he jammed his finger, and I believe it's his pinky and ring fingers. He jammed one of them early on in training camp, and it's just something that will almost certainly eventually heal and go away. It's not affecting him really whatsoever, as you can tell from his scoring and his percentage output. So that being said, Sam, as of right now, 4 games into the season, the Sacramento Kings yesterday passed the Celtics with the highest net rated offense plus defense, net rated starting 5.
Woo!
Yeah, in the whole league by a decent amount now over Boston after last night. Early sample size. That being said, though, Sam, isn't it the depth ultimately that the Kings are going to have to worry about?
Yeah, no question. And more specifically, the question of behind Domas.
Yeah.
What does it look like? I know going into the season, even though I think fans and even media are pretty dismissive of Alex Len, it was, the coaching staff has some lineups that they like with Alex, and but you certainly feel like in general that they've got to continue kind of scouring the market for some depth on that front, and partly because of the durability stuff that you're already hitting on with De'Aaron. They can't take it for granted that Sabonis is as much of a workhorse as he is, because knock on wood for them, that might not always be the case. So depth on the bench is something. Keon Ellis finding his role is something. It's quite a thing to go from projections of him possibly starting going into the season to trying to figure out where he's best used. That's just a guy that in today's NBA, where the stars make the payroll so top heavy, and you have got to find diamonds in the rough who don't make a ton of money to legitimately help you. It seemed like Keon was going to be one of those success stories. They need that to still be the case. So to me, that's another thing I would point out.
Talking with Sam Amick from The Athletic, brought to you by our friends at Jiffy Lube. Sam, it's now 4 games of regular season action for the Kings and of DeMar DeRozan. And a couple things we've seen is an increased volume of free throws for this team. They went until last game, they had moved up to number 1 in percentage. I know last game they didn't shoot the ball that well from the line, but he's very responsible for that. But just curious what you think of what you've seen from him in his 4 games. He's got 20 or more in all of them. It just kind of fit in how he's played with that starting 5.
Yeah, mostly looks good. I haven't studied the defensive numbers, but what jumps out, for one, 4 straight games, I believe, and you might have already said this, Jay, but of 20-plus points, that kind of consistency is what he brings to the table, and that's how you get to a place where he's on track to maybe even be top 10 all-time in scoring at some point here. So the free throw line stuff, though, is huge, and I did write about this a little bit the other day, and the fact that, again, small sample size, but the Kings go from last in the league in free throw percentage last season, which really another thing that did cost them their season, to first in the league so far this year. DeMar eats at the line. That's what he does, and he's very consistent. He's an absolute kind of craftsman when it comes to getting to the line. He's one of those kind of guys who learn from Kobe, and it's footwork, and it's 4 or 5 pump fakes every once in a while, and you get to the line. So that kind of offensive stability and consistency and creativity, I think, is good. Especially when they don't have it in them to run as much as folks sometimes think they should. It's just another weapon. So it's been good, but again, it's just hard because they not only is it only 4 games, but you have 2 against bad teams and 2 against pretty good teams.
Sam, I want to ask you a question. I don't know if there's any noise in these numbers, and I'm completely throwing a curveball at you because I have no idea either. I'm looking at the standings right now, and what jumps out at me is in the Eastern Conference, there's only 4 teams, including the Brooklyn Nets, by the way, at 2 and 3. There's only 4 teams that have a positive point differential, and in the Western Conference, there are 7. Including the Sacramento Kings and including the Golden State Warriors at 20.4 as a plus minus. Here's my point. 11 out of 32 teams are in a plus differential, which means almost the entire league has been outscored. Obviously, small sample size, but what the heck do I make out of that?
You probably just answered your question with the last comment. I don't know beyond that.
Tell your dog to chill.
Yeah. She just shook her head, man. Relax.
Well, she's inside. It's not like she's in the rain.
There we go. We're back in the office now. I don't know there. I mean, I can't honestly wrap my head around that one. I mean, I will say that maybe related to that the scoring, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a little surprising that the scoring has surged a bit here early on, and admittedly kind of driving me crazy because I had have a story on the officiating this season that I meant to put out a couple of weeks ago, where the framing and the narrative and the messaging was going to be that it's more of the same this season compared to the second half of last season in terms of like teams being able to defend, scoring being kind of suppressed a bit. Defenders having a chance, we have defense again in the NBA, and then early on the numbers have not indicated that. And I don't quite know why, because the NBA all the way up to Monty McCutcheon, who heads up the officials, and Joe Dumars, and even Adam Silver, who I talked to, had said no, we liked the second half of last year. So that goes back to my original point, which is for now you just say small sample size and have to probably revisit it in a week or two.
Sam, last week at this time, you were in Denver talking to us before they were opening their season. They lost their first couple. They've won their last 2, needed overtime to win both. I don't know, just some of your takeaways from, you wanted to get out and see the Nuggets and just see, I'm curious what you learned from that group going into the year.
I mean, not great. Everything's relative, right? Like if the Kings had Joker and, even Jamal Murray, guys like that, but when you win a championship, obviously the expectations change. When you have a player like Joker, he's in that echelon. I mean, you're talking 3 MVPs in 4 years. So it becomes, like Giannis, like Steph, like LeBron, you have to do every single thing possible to have a legitimate title contender when you have a player like that. Luka, obviously, Shea, Joel Embiid. So all of that is to say that it just does not seem like the Nuggets situation right now in their environment has got them, anywhere close to where they want to be when it comes to real title contention. And it's everything from, I mean, there's a kind of a financial second apron discussion to be had here, where in the wake of the title, they had to say goodbye to Bruce Brown. That he had a unique contract, so that one I don't give him a ton of blame for, even though folks keep bringing it up. But then the following summer, it's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, financially driven there, where he just got more money elsewhere. They've tried to replenish those talents with young draft picks who do have promise, Christian Brown and Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, but there's a gap between kind of what they had before and where those guys are now. And shooting in particular is a major issue. And so, when you have issues with shooting, what better player to employ than Russell Westbrook, who they added this summer. So like that, my takeaways were not positive at all. And I probably need to revisit that story a little bit, and not just how they look. It's all of it. Like the night of the opener against OKC, it just blew me away from an audacity standpoint that Russ went out there and was firing threes just right out the gate, which I actually I know I'm sounding dramatic, but it felt disrespectful. Like, man, this team has won a championship. You're the newcomer. We all know that in terms of volume 3-point shooting, you're the worst 3-point shooter in the history of the game. And he went 1 of 6 that night from long range. And then Joker post game was talking openly, like, he doesn't really do this typically, about how they're not a very good shooting team. And he didn't put Russ's name on it, but I felt like the messaging was pretty clear. So they're figuring their stuff out. Jamal Murray has not looked, like peak Jamal Murray. So, again, it's a long season. They can find their groove, but a little rough early on.
With the Athletic, Sam Amick, want to remind you the Sam Amick Show brought to you by all your Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area. Speaking of Jiffy Lube, the last time I saw you in person, we were eating about half a restaurant's worth of sushi with our old friend Matt Graham from Jiffy Lube. That was a fine meal. And we were talking a little bit about the business. We should do it again on Matt this time. We were talking about the business of your business and how it works. And we've talked about this on the air before too. How not just at the Athletic, but all over the place, that hits and views and what gets read, what doesn't, that there's numbers, there's data, and it kind of helps guide, doesn't guide completely, to be clear, but helps guide what the hot spots and the not spots are. So I wanted to ask you, yesterday in Cleveland, Bronny James got a huge ovation, scored his first points, and there's been a lot of Bronny James coverage, and some people think, this is ridiculous. Some people love it. I think most are kind of indifferent. I wanted to ask you, though, if you even have the knowledge, Sam, how in your experience is Bronny James stories hitting, when it comes to the populace? Is it one, and I'll wrap up my long-winded question, is it one of those things where everyone says they hate it, but then it's consistently a highly viewed topic? Do you have any read on that at all?
Yeah, I do. This is one of those where you're hitting the nail on the head, and I have a good aneCdote for you. I don't, yeah, attaboy. Do a victory lap.
Thank you.
I don't think my company would mind me sharing this. This fascinated me. My colleague and buddy Joe Varden wrote an in-depth feature on Bronny heading into the Cleveland game, a story that he worked very hard on. Admittedly, I need to go back and read the whole thing. I haven't read all of it, but it included him talking to like Bronny's teachers from elementary school. He was trying to humanize Bronny. Like, let's not just talk about him as LeBron's kid, and that's the end of the story. He's got his own, individual path and his own journey. And, I know personally when I was in LA, it was kind of fun. I actually watched Joe. So Joe, being based in Cleveland, has been around Bronny since he was a kid. And Joe went up to Bronny at Lakers practice and actually had with him a drawing that Bronny had made in school. And it was a picture of almost like a Spartan, Olympic style, where it was some essay that Bronny had written about his Olympic dreams and some of his sports aspirations. And he showed this picture to Bronny, and they had a fun moment that I think was in the story. But now fast forward to the story getting published. We have a thing internally that it has like a Slack channel that says major trending stories, which means it's, very few stories get read to this degree, maybe 2 or 3 a day on the entire site. And I look on there, and sure enough, the Bronny James story is a major trending story. So to your point, that's a huge win where it's getting a lot of readership. So the answer is yes. By and large, people are consuming this content, but the painful part is like a story like that Joe poured his heart into. If you then scroll down and you go to the most liked comment of them all, it's pretty toxic, and folks are mocking the fact that we are focusing on this guy that if he wasn't LeBron's son, obviously would not be in the spotlight. So I don't know the answer because, the one thing does drive the business to a large extent, people actually reading your material. But it's, perfect world, people would have enjoyed the story and said, hey, great work, Joe. But that was not the case here.
And I kind of wonder, Sam, where the story goes from here, because I think it is a story, obviously, at the beginning, first ever father-son didn't score in the first game. Now he scored.
Yeah.
But where does it advance from here? I mean, you guys aren't spending detailed time on bench players and other teams. Now, I know it's not the exact same thing, but I feel like the boxes have kind of been checked. Do you think it remains a story?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a feature every time, like first block, first steal.
Yeah.
First technical.
You know, first technical. Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I think the next thing is gonna. I mean, it's not going away at all. But I think the stuff that's gonna be next is his development. You know, the beginning of next month, the South Bay Lakers begin their schedule. I think, you know, so that'll be the next development is Bronny in the G League. And, you know, and to his credit, he is by all accounts like a really down to earth kid, which is pretty hard to believe considering his upbringing. And I only highlight that because some of the stories that we've talked about internally that are maybe hopefully interesting enough to keep people less annoyed about us covering him is like the idea of, you know, Bronny James jumping on the team bus and shuttling off to Tuscaloosa or wherever it is in the G League. Like the G League lifestyle, which is less ritzy and glamorous than the NBA lifestyle, like that'll probably be the next thing is how is he coming along at that level? So I don't know. It's the most unique story like this that I've ever come across in the league. I don't blame people if they're annoyed by the coverage, you know, but it is obviously a story.
It is an interesting conversation, Sam, because I can completely get the whole, dude, it's nepotism. He's not on the team if it's not for his dad. Why are you shoving Bronny James down our throats when we talk about Giannis or Jokic or even his dad? Like, I understand that. I think and I talked about this earlier, what kind of glides me towards the story in a positive way is the other angle, which is, look, no one's feeling bad for Bronny James being born to LeBron James. He's basically sports royalty from the beginning. But with that, let me put it a different way. I watched The Crown, about Queen Elizabeth, and they actually made a decent point that as much as you might hate the royal family, if you do, right? Like being born into royalty, there is another side to it. Like if you don't know any other way, like you don't have freedom. You're born into this thing. You have to do this thing. You can't do all these other things. Guys like Christopher Lott are like, oh, where? But being born into something and before you even pop out, having your destiny in part already assigned and laid out for you, like you're LeBron James's son. You better be as good or better than him. And you're in the spotlight and everything you do growing up is going to be magnified. And like you said, he seems like a good kid, even though he was born with a gold spoon in his mouth. Screw the silver. He had a heart attack a year ago. He gets on the team, which, by the way, shout out Thanasis Antetokounmpo and the other 7 Antetokounmpos that are on the Bucks, and nobody that doesn't get talked about enough. And then it's like, I don't know. Who cares? I don't understand the anger for it when it's like, what did this kid do wrong? He's just trying to make the stinking league.
Yeah, I think the part I'm not mad at the fans for is like, I think the difference between like a Thanasis is it's the media coverage. You know, we are focusing on it. I think if we had deep profiles on everything that Thanasis brings to the Bucks, which unless I missed it, I think he's actually still not technically on the Bucks, but he will be soon. He's been hurt and off the roster, but like the media coverage is not the same. It does help me personally from a, like, you know, as far as like the making your stomach turn component, like I'm just happy that Bronny's not a little SH, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like that would, even being in the field and being in the locker room, if he was a little diva who was unpleasant to be around, and you kind of wonder like, why in the hell are we highlighting? Like at least he's just has a good way about him. I saw the other day LeBron made a comment or somebody made a comment about how, given his fame, Bronny's fame, that, you know, again, these are first world problems and challenges or decisions, but like he could make more money now, you know, as an influencer or doing other things. He's the one who's decided to take on this pretty unenviable task of playing in the same jersey as his dad. And and trying to do what they're doing. I don't know where it leads. The story obviously is going to be years long. I mean, when LeBron is out of the league, the question obviously is Bronny going to be in the league? We'll see. But you're right on the other point, Dave. There's nepotism all over the NBA, and that's what has helped me kind of not lose any sleep over this. I went to the Warriors game the other day, and every time you turn a corner, there's a Lacob. Joe Lacob's got both of his sons working for the team. Steve Kerr's son, Nicholas, also now a veteran coach within their program, and the list goes on. Every single franchise has this. But so I think the distinction probably, again, is the media coverage.
That's Sam Amick, brought to you by all your Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area. We're out of time, but your son okay? We got a little view of the
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you do, Sam?
He's a young wrestler who, even before he started wrestling, had his father's penchant for bloody noses, and just to ruin everybody's breakfast today, we had a pretty gross moment. He's eating his eggs, and all of a sudden this happens, and he had the toast and the eggs, and let's just say that he did not finish his meal because there were some red splotches all over it. So happy Halloween, everybody.
It's Tabasco.
Yeah.
That's sriracha. Oh, okay.
Happy Halloween.
On that note, I'm going to have another grape and take a break with you. Thanks, buddy. Say hi to Emily and talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. See you.
All right. Take care of that, Sam Heyman. We'll take a break. When we come back, 4 Down Territory, starring Thursday Night Football, Texans, Jets.